Hey there, listeners. Welcome to the Leadership is Changing podcast. My name is Denis and I'm your host. Great to have you here with me. Now, look, I posted on social media the other day a quote by Scott Robertson, who is the All Blacks coach. And the saying was, I'm learning, we're getting better together. And the thing here is, I want to talk about this quote and what it means for you as a leader, but also for your organization. Let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas.
Hey there, listeners. Welcome to the Ask Denis episode. This is a freestyle episode where I'm asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts and experiences and insights from working with many leaders around the globe. Hey, well, today it's really about that topic around the comment that Scott Robertson, who's the All Blacks coach, and I'm going to explain a little bit more what I mean by that, who said this: I'm learning, we're getting better. And really interesting quote in what he actually shared here, because the New Zealand All Blacks are really known as world champions. They are classed as world champions, high performers, if I can put it that way. And the thing here is that they've been world champions a few times. They are known as high performers. And if you think about top brands around the world, like Manchester United or other top brands, high performing organizations, they're up there with those organizations. They've been ranked number one in the world several times, well, for many years. And in this country of New Zealand, rugby is probably the main sport. It's the main one that we tend to go to. And with rugby, it's really quite important. But what we tend to do is we tend to grow it from the grassroots. In other words, we're working with people, with kids and so forth, and growing them over the years to play the game of rugby, but also set them up for international level in the future. And now what's actually happened is that over the years, the team's done very, very well. And there's been succession planning happening around the coaching team. And so we had, many years ago, we had a guy called Sir Graham Henry, who was the head coach, but he had two assistant coaches. One was called Steve Hansen, who's now known as Sir Steve Hansen, and Ian Foster. And these guys were really under the wing of Graham Henry. They became world rugby champions and they did very well. So as Sir Graham Henry retired after doing many years, Steve Hansen took over for a couple of seasons or a few seasons, and then he left, and then Ian Foster took over as well. What's quite interesting here is that that whole team have now left, and we have a brand new coaching team here in New Zealand. It's under the head coach, a guy called Scott Robertson, who actually grew one of the best local or regional teams, I can say, here in New Zealand. But he's gone and formed a team around him who have never worked at the international level together before. And so it's actually quite brand new, cutting edge, but also new fields that they're actually getting used to. And they're having to learn how to work with each other as well, but also they're learning how to work with the players. And in the players side of things, we've got a lot of people who are players who are now moved on, retired after many years of playing. And so we have a mixture of new players and a mixture of current players or older players, if I can put it that way. The older ones are great because what they've done is they're actually helping others learn the whole environment and the way that they work. In fact, what they have done recently is they went on what we call a northern tour. And so they took a whole lot of new players with them. So we were in the southern hemisphere. New Zealanders, we went to the northern hemisphere to play the teams up there, teams like England, Ireland, France, and Italy. And so some of those names or some of those countries are massive in what they do around rugby too. And so what actually happened here is you've got a brand new coaching team. You've got some new players that they're trying out and putting in some testing times or positions and some testing games that we've actually had. And so they've all learnt. The other thing is we've noticed that the succession planning has been happening, but also we've got some real hot talent that have come into the team. So in other words, new blood, brand new eyes, excited and hungry to learn, but also grow and also show that they can actually do things. All of this really starts from what we call the grassroots. And rugby here in New Zealand has gone from kids playing it in their backyard to then playing it at schools, playing it at club level, and going up through the different ranks within that, then going and playing a regional sort of level, and then into international games as well. But if we can spot the talent and spot it early, that's pretty cool. Because why? Because we can embrace that talent and then start to grow them and engage with them. So then they can engage in the game, but also they're going to then become our future leaders as well. I'm wondering what you do as a leader. Do you spot talent within your organization? Doesn't mean they have to be reporting into you, but maybe you do some skip levels or you talk to people, and how do you get them engaged as well? Because the talent is really the future leaders of the organization. Embrace them, engage them is very, very important. So New Zealand is really rebuilding their team for the future as well. So then they can then become world champions once again. In fact, the World Cup, the next one is away and is 3 years' time from now. So we and also countries like Australia and some other countries are starting to rebuild their organizations and their teams to become very successful in the future. But as I said, that New Zealand's just been on what we call the Northern Tour, and we played in our winter, and as our winter is finishing, we go up to the Northern Tour, which is the beginning of their winter. And as I said, we played 4 games. We did lose 1, but we won 3 of them as well. And as a result of that, they did a little bit of a review. They talked about a review on the tour. How did it go? What was it like? And so forth. And they interviewed the coach because they said to the coach, are you really happy not only that you lost 1, yes, you won 2, but really the 4th game, which was a lower level country, you guys didn't play too well. So are you happy where you are so far? And he says, if you think about the bigger picture in the scheme of things, we're brand new this season. We've had, I think they've had 11 games throughout the year, maybe even 14 actually. And so how they've gone, there's a mixture on wins and losses and so forth. But he did say this comment, I'm learning, we're learning, and we're getting better. And the thing here is this, you can't just expect to take over a team today and it to go very well. Number one. Number two, you can't pull together a new team and expect it to go well on day one. In fact, it does take time. And so the question I've got to ask yourself is, as a leader, do you go back to the drawing board, as I call it? Do you take time out to reflect? Do you take time out to learn? Do you take time out to grow? And what about also taking time out to strategize for the future? It's not about winning the battle, but it's actually winning the war. So we may lose some of the battles, but in the general, we want to win the war. And so how do we get better step by step? And what are we needing to do? Here's actually an interesting concept, and that is, are you as a leader creating an environment for people in your organization, for you as a leader and your leaders in the organization to learn, grow as leaders, but doing it together? There is the team maturity model that Tuckman talks about, and the team maturity model, you may have heard of it before, forming, storming, norming, and performing. The New Zealand All Blacks are really a high-performance team, as I said. But you know what? They've gone through those phases of team maturity because with the brand new coaching team come in, and so then we're back into forming again. When new players are introduced to the team, they go back into forming, but they move through to storming and norming and into performing pretty quickly. And so the thing here would be for you to grow that talent and to grow high performers in your organization, to become that performing team, you're going to have to go through those stages. So where are you at any one stage in that maturity model? But what do you need to do to go from one phase to the other phase? What can you put in place to help grow and develop your team? So I've got some questions for you to sit back and reflect and think about. Number one would be, what are you doing to set up the succession plan or successors in your organization? In other words, your future leaders. Number two, what environment are you setting up for people to learn and grow? Is it okay for them to do things and learn and innovate? Because a lot of organizations who don't really want people to make mistakes and create an environment where it's fearful to make a mistake, they tend to lose out on innovation and new ideas. Why? Because people hold back. The third question would be, What are you doing to grow the grassroots leaders or individuals within your organization? So they may not be today's leaders, but they may be tomorrow's leaders, which is very important. But what can you do today to be able to grow them as individuals in preparation for them becoming the leaders in the future? So it's an interesting actual quote by Scott Robertson, who is the All Blacks coach. As I said, I'm learning, we're getting better. If you can do that on a regular basis and the consistency of learning all the time, then you'll become stronger and stronger as an organization, as a leader, and it's going to be fantastic. Well, there you go, listeners. Well, here's your call to action this week, and that is to really think about how you as a leader are really setting up that environment and answering those 3 questions I said just before. The second one is the call to action is an offer for you. And the offer is this, that we've got coming up towards the end of the year. We've got people who are starting to think about now for the future in the new year. And I want to open up 3 complimentary coaching spots or coaching sessions. So you'll be one of 3 people who will be eligible to get a single coaching session with me for 1 hour. And what we'll do is we'll talk about where you are now, where you're wanting to go in 2025, and then how can I maybe able to help you in doing that, right? And so it might be whereby you're unfulfilled in your current role, or you're craving something more to do, and you want to go to a bigger, more exciting role or level in the organization. But you know what? You aren't sure on how to make the leap. Or you may be wanting to take your executive presence, your confidence to another level. Or you may be just being made redundant and you're not sure where to start. So you'd like to get clarity on your next steps and would like to step forward with purpose and confidence. I've got this actionable coaching, and by step-by-step approach, I can actually help people gain clarity and courage and helping them make their next moves. So whether you are looking to disrupt the status quo or just simply finding a greater purpose and fulfillment in life, then I'm going to be able to get together with you. So if you're really interested, I'm going to open this up to the first 3 people that approach me. You can either send me an email, Denis@leadingchangepartners.com, or you can send me a private message on LinkedIn or on Facebook Messenger, and just send me a private message and we'll set that up, that 1 hour complimentary session. Once again, it's only open up to the first 3 people that comes along and we can talk about things. Hey, listeners, well, that's it for this episode. It's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for joining me on the Leadership is Changing podcast. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.